Good afternoon, YouTubers and ham radio operators. This is KC3QPJ. Hopefully I'm actually recording this time. Here to do a final update and final review on the Baofeng BF-H7. The last video I had, we were having a lot of difficulty with the radio, wasn't working at all. I figured out the problem and I'm here to share that problem with you. And I'm going to turn the radio off for a minute just so that the display doesn't brighten out the camera, because I do have it on the brightest setting. But problem solved, and I had to take some time to think about the issue, why it would transmit on simplex but not on the repeaters. Come to find out, everything was working fine, but we'll show you what the technical issue is. With that said, let's get started into the video. Alright, so what we're going to do today, first of all, I'm going to tell you what the issue was with the radio. I am going to show you what my fix was, which was fairly simple, but some people would not want to do this. That really is based on the operator and the experience level that you have and what you're comfortable with. Now, personally, I feel like this is a major flaw, but easy to get over to overcome the flaw, and especially with those that want to use aftermarket antennas on this radio. So that being said, we're also going to do a power test today, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts and review on the radio. So I have my adapter here to convert it from SMA female to SO239, and then into PL239, and back into my power meter here, which is hooked up to the external antenna. And we'll get some power readings. Now, I am not expecting anything more than 3 watts from the 2 meter band and no more than 4 from the 70 centimeter band. And everybody may be saying, well, wait, the BF-H7 is advertised for 10 watts. Well, so are a lot of other radios. And here's the thing, with a handy talkie, do you really want 10 watts in your face? All that RF radiating out into the back of your skull and shrinking your brain. So keep that in mind when you're purchasing a handy talkie. You really don't need much more than 5 watts. However, you know, my 878 right here does do 6.5 watts. Man, that coffee mug is, might have a busted lip. Did y'all see the coffee on the end of that thing? Good grief. Might have to have my lip checked out. The 878 does do 6.5 watts on high power on both bands. So not expecting that from the Baofeng. And in case you're questioning, this is the BF-H7. That's the Bravo Foxtrot Hotel 7. A lot of potential here, guys. And with that said, let's get ready and do the power test. We're going to pause the video. I'm going to hook up the antenna and we'll get to it. Okay, welcome back, YouTubers. We're all hooked up and ready to go. We're going to do the power test on the Shorecom SW102 meter. We're on a local repeater, W3FDK. L indicates low power, so let's see what we got on low power. KC3QPJ testing on low power. And low power on BF-H7 is 0.89 watts, almost 1 watt. Okay, so 1 watt on low power. Alright, now we're gonna, that interference is because these radios just accept so much interference. Alright, so now we're gonna hit menu. We're gonna go to transmit power. We're gonna go mid power. We're gonna cut that out. Now we're on mid power, shown by the M here. Sorry for the shaky video, guys. KC3QPJ testing on 14673. Medium power is roughly 4.5 watts on the BF-H7. Alright, so that's pretty good. 4.5 watts on medium power. Wow, guys, a Baofeng that might actually do what it's supposed to. Now, mind you, the gain of this antenna, I am hooked up to a 10-foot antenna, and it's showing the reflected power as 0.001%, which is really good. Actually, pretty crazy. Okay, so we're gonna go from medium power to high power, and let's see what our results are on high power. Just in case you think I might be yanking your chain, you can see the length of cable going into the Shorecom SW102. Last test on power. This is KC3QPJ on 14673 with the Baofeng BF-H7, actually transmitting 6.4 watts on 14673. Thank you for the use of the repeater, and my test is concluded. You all have a fine day. KC3QPJ73. Well, there we go. Shocking. I'm not even going to bother with the 70 centimeter band. We're going to call it a day on that. 6 watts. Wow. Advertised 10. Now, mind you, on the European version of this, it was actually putting out 9.3 watts on the 220 band. So, unfortunately, the American version doesn't have the 220 band. So if I'm doing 6 watts on the, you know what, let's real quick. We'll get into the VFO mode. Let's get into the VFO mode here. We're going to do a long press on the menu button. We're going to go to 4460000. Okay, 446. Let's just see what high power does on that. And the cool thing on this meter is it really pretty much tells you what frequency. Now, I know I said I was on 14673, but on the repeater you're going down 6 kilohertz steps. So that's why it's showing 14613. So let's see what happens here on the 446. KC3QPJ testing high power on 446.400. And there is a frequency shift, so I apologize if I'm interfering with a repeater. And that's the downside of the Baofeng. I forgot to turn the frequency shift off, but still, look at the power, 6.15 watts. Not too shabby. So I'm gonna pause this video once again, and we're going to do a final review, and I'll give you my final thoughts and let you know what I think about the radio. Alright, welcome back, guys. So this is going to be short and sweet and to the point. Alright, so let's get to the positives. 6 watts on high power, that's a positive. I'm going to give you all the positives and negatives and explain to you at this point what the problem was. So they included this Abri aftermarket antenna. Do you see these scuff marks here? It did not come that way. This was the issue. They designed this in such a way that an aftermarket antenna will not fit into the antenna port properly. Now, on the UV5Rs and on every other Baofeng radio, I've not noticed this till now. They've kind of recessed this plug in this lip of the radio. The connector's kind of recessed too low. So when you're trying to fit the aftermarket antenna into there, it will not fit around the edges. So this is where the butchering came in, and I'm hoping you guys can see this. Alright, I beveled the edge. Now look, it's rough, and I'm going to polish this up, but I beveled the edge of the antenna. And now mind you, this is just plastic. It's not going to affect your SWR. It's not going to affect how the radio operates, but I had to do that to get this to recess into this properly, to make the proper seated connection for the center pin on the male end and to make the proper ground. Now, I did use the stock antenna, and when I used the stock antenna, the radio did work perfectly with the stock antenna. I should have tried that from the beginning, but you know, being inexperienced and just hopping into things head first, just trying to throw this aftermarket antenna on there, you know, that's my goof up. So now I'm going to make a couple things real clear here. Everything that I put in this video regarding this Baofeng, and everybody's like, why do a review on a Baofeng? Well, first of all, as I've explained before, I'm a new operator. I know what it is to have a lot of expense to start up in the hobby, and you want to start off, you know, when you're not familiar with what's going on, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money. A lot of ham radio operators are not retired. Some of the new ones coming in, they don't have the money to put out for expensive radio, and that's what makes the UV5R such an appealing thing. It's $25. It does its job. They are not top-end radios, okay? Now, so far, the biggest cons, let's go through the con list real quick. Con list, that was a huge one. Trying to get an aftermarket antenna to fit in there, you might have to modify either the antenna or the radio, depending on what you buy. The stock antenna works just fine, but you know, the stock antennas lack gain. So there's one big con. This made me almost return this radio, but I put a lot of thought in it too. Okay, another con for people, and this is a huge con for a lot of operators. The belt clip clips onto the back of the radio, or the back of the battery, and not the radio. That's a huge con even for me. Not really a huge con, because I prefer holsters. I use a holster for my handy talkies. Okay. Now here's another con. We did do a spectral analysis test on this, a rough one today, while I'm at the ham luncheon out in Golden Corral. So shout out to Mike K3DO, and to Sandy, and to Luke. Sandy KB3EOF and Luke W3JP. Had a fun time with you guys and enjoyed hearing your input today. And I am going to give their comments on the radio, on the air here in a second. So the biggest con is this thing is spectrally dirty, really bad. It was bleeding across the entire 2 meter and 70 centimeter band. According to the spectral analyzer, it was not doing a good job. Really still a dirty signal. Does it work? Yes. Can it cause unwanted interference? Yes. So it begs the question is, this does have an FCC approval, but I'm not sure what the approval is for, considering it doesn't seem like it's changed. Okay, so there's the cons. All right, here's the pros. Pro number one, not a big pro, your cover connector, your cover for your K connector here, where you would either plug your programming cable or your microphone. They've done a lot to upgrade that and make it a little more weatherproof. It seals up a little better than what's on the UV5R. The buttons, like I said in the other video, upgraded and rubberized, a little bit better of a tactile feel. My number one and number two. My number two would be the display. Upgraded, a lot more crisp, a lot brighter. Very much easier to read, even though the display is not really, what's displayed is not really larger, it's crisper. So it really is a lot easier on the eyes. My number one pro is the channel selector knob on the top, just so I can change the channels on the fly without having to push buttons, reposition my hand. I can just grip the radio, use my thumb, and my thumb will turn that without putting any unnecessary strain on the radio. So very clicky and very nice. Okay, another pro, instant voltage reading just by hitting this button underneath the PTT. I think with the proper software you can reprogram that, but for right now this will show your voltage when you do a quick press. Actually, you might need a long press, we'll see. Nope, quick press, 7.2. And when the radio is fully charged, it actually has 8.4 volts. So I'd have to tell you that, okay, or show you that. Okay, still has the FM radio feature along with the monitor feature for the final button, and then your call button up top. Okay. Now the other biggest pro, it comes factory with 2200 milliamp hour battery. And the last and final one, I don't know how many people have had trouble putting these things into the charging stands, which I should have this charging stand up here, but this is just slap it in and you're good, man. They've really done a good job on upgrading the charger stand. So way to go, Baofeng. You are trying to step it up. Now give me a second and I'll read some comments for you guys. Okay, so this will be the last time you have to look at that ugly radio, but I actually really like it, and I'm going to give you some final opinions and final thoughts. Okay. Alright, so welcome back. Now you can see my ugly mug again, and I'm sorry for any interference. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be the shakiest video out of all the ones that I made. So 3 different operators I talked to. I tried to get some other operators involved, but they were busy talking and having fun and talking other stuff in the HF. But alright, so Mr. Sandy, KB3OF, says it has a sexier body. Okay. Yeah, it does look good, and it is beefier. Has good audio both on receive and transmit. So your transmit audio is really good, both send and receive. Mr. Mike K3DO says it's a pretty radio, but pretty has to be functional. You can't just be pretty; it has to be functional. It is more ruggedized. It's more rugged, but ruggedized. He said ruggedized. So it's been upgraded to be more rugged, which it really is. The casing on this thing feels so much better than the UV5R. And his another upside was the channel selector knob, that he did like that as well. So W3JP Luke, I liked it for the menu and the size and the new functions. He felt it was a little more functional with the channel selector. And that's all the pros from the guys. Now the cons: lack of accessories, and the belt clip is a little bit of a con. So that being said, I feel that the only thing that is going to help this radio overcome the UV5R is experimentation. Be willing to pay a little bit more money, but not breaking the bank for a radio that actually just surprised me with the power output. Now, this meter is pretty accurate. Now, keep in mind, the test that I just ran, excuse me, hiccups once again, I had 3 connections before the antenna. Actually 5 connections before the antenna. So that alone should have thrown off the SWR and the power ratings. But I ran that from the radio, 2 connections and 3 connections to the meter. Then I had a length about 6 feet of LMR 400 to a window pass-through. A window pass-through to another 35 feet of LMR 400 into the antenna, 10-foot Diamond X300A. Now you guys saw the SWR readings as well as the power outputs, and we were averaging on high power 6 watts. So while this radio is advertised for 10 watts, I never believe that with any kind of handheld. There's just, it's stupid to believe that radio will do it unless it's been tested and well known to do it. Now, like I said, I've seen in the European versions that it does work at 10 watts, at 9.34 watts on the 220 or 1.25 meter band. But right now that is not available in the United States. Okay, my final thoughts: this has a ton of potential to be a Baofeng UV5R killer. It's all about how it's marketed. Even when the UV5R came out, the biggest thing, and I'm not going to mention names, there were good parts good thoughts put up and good opinions put up, but we're not going to mention names because it got kind of nasty in the comment. You guys can read that if you want. Accessories is not what makes a radio in my eyes. It's what you do to utilize that radio and what is the least expense. And for the money that I put out for this radio, it was the least expense with a battery that doesn't have to be upgraded off the top necessarily per se. A stock UV5R comes with a 1700 to 1800 milliamp hour battery. This one is a 2200 milliamp hour battery. The more of these that are sold over the UV5R, as the popularity grows, the more accessories that will come out for it. But most manufacturers will only produce the accessories for things that start to sell better. The UV5R is an older body platform, and when I mean older body platform, they really haven't changed much on the programming of the radio. So they've given the same board a new face, a new display, and a couple more options. It's still a step forward and not a step backward. Mind you, like I said, it's throwing out a dirty signal, but in the same regard, what other radio can you get that's going to perform that way under $100? Okay, a Baofeng, a $20 Baofeng performs a lot better than a $20 radio. This radio, to me, performs better than the UV5R. Is it a Yaesu, a Kenwood, an ICOM, or a Wojun, or however you pronounce that Chinese radio name. No, not at all. But you're not paying $150 for your handheld. Some of them go up to $600. So, do I think that this is the UV5R killer? I think with popularity and realizing how rugged the radio is, it's not the best rugged radio, but for what it is, it does a great job, and I think this has a lot of potential. The accessories will come, and I'm sure they didn't make accessories off the top for the UV5R, but me being new to this, I'm not sure. So if it boils down to accessories for you, and you want to have a pretty radio with a battery size that you probably never even run out in a day unless you're running field days and doing emergency communications, then get the UV5R. If accessories are a big thing to you and you want to pay that much more money, which you'll end up spending more money in the long run on accessories than you did on the radio, or just get the all-in-one efficient package for a little bit more money to start, and then not worry about accessories until you have to worry about accessories. That being said, those are my thoughts. Leave questions, comments below. Thank you guys for all your input, and I appreciate your time. 7-3 KC3 QPJ signing off.